Have you ever seen pornography? Be honest. How much do you think you've actually seen in your life? Don't worry, you're not alone. It's everywhere, hiding in plain sight, and we're about to talk about it, out loud. Pornography. It's a global industry worth billions, a financial behemoth that dwarfs many other sectors. The sheer scale of it is staggering, influencing economies and shaping online trends. Yet we act like it's invisible. We avert our gaze, pretend it doesn't exist, or dismiss it as a fringe phenomenon. This collective denial obscures its profound impact on our culture and individual lives. Ever wonder where it all started? Where did this pervasive force originate, and how did it evolve into the digital empire it is today? Too bad we're diving in. We're not just skimming the surface. We're plunging into the depths of its history, ready to uncover the surprising and often unsettling truths. Think of this as a museum tour, a guided exploration through the annals of erotic expression. We'll be examining artifacts, analyzing trends, and challenging our own assumptions along the way. For that browser tab you always close in a panic, that guilty pleasure, that fleeting moment of curiosity, we're bringing it out into the light. Pornography is the cultural wallpaper we pretend not to see. It's the elephant in the room, the unspoken influence that shapes our perceptions of sex, relationships, and even ourselves. Tonight, we're asking the awkward questions, the ones that make us squirm, the ones we're afraid to voice. Where did it come from, and how did it get here? What were the key turning points, the pivotal moments that propelled it from niche expression to mainstream phenomenon? Its ubiquity is astounding. Like air or microplastics, it's just there. An inescapable element of our modern environment, subtly shaping our thoughts and behaviors. But our understanding of its history? Shockingly shallow. We know so little about the forces that have shaped this pervasive industry. The urge to document the naughty bits is ancient, and the story is as weird as it is fascinating. Prepare to be surprised, intrigued, and perhaps even a little disturbed by the strange and unexpected twists and turns we encounter. We'll explore the art, technology, business, and power struggles that shaped this industry, the constant interplay between creativity, commerce, and control. Every new media invention, from the printing press to the pixel, was almost instantly used for eroticism, a testament to human curiosity and the enduring appeal of the forbidden. Give us a new tool, and we'll ask, can we use it to look at genitals? It's a question that has driven innovation and shaped the digital landscape in ways we often fail to acknowledge. So buckle up. We're going back to the beginning, before pop-up ads and paywalls, to see how it all began, to understand the roots of this complex and often contradictory phenomenon. Ready? Let's go. It's time to confront the cultural wallpaper and explore the hidden history of pornography. Before we get historical, let's define our terms. Pornography: explicit depictions of sex made to arouse. It's not about what's shown, but why it's shown. Intent is everything. The line between art and porn? Blurry. One person's masterpiece is another's scandal. The US Supreme Court tried to define it as, I know it when I see it. Not exactly helpful. Context matters. What's obscene in one era is art in another. A nature documentary shows lions mating for science. Add slow-mo and a sultry soundtrack and suddenly it's something else. The difference is purpose, not content. This moving target has kept society arguing for centuries. Statues once worshipped become museum pieces, then moral panics. As we go on, remember, the story of pornography is as much about shifting attitudes as it is about the images themselves. Let's keep that in mind as we move through history. When we think of pornography, we often picture something modern, something digital. But the truth is, the human fascination with the erotic is anything but new. It's prehistoric. Long before the internet, before printing presses, even before writing, our ancestors were expressing themselves through explicit imagery. Cavemen carved explicit images, etched into stone and painted onto cave walls, leaving a record of their desires for future generations to discover. These images were likely tied to fertility and ritual. They weren't just about titillation. They were about ensuring the survival of the tribe, celebrating the life force, and connecting with the spiritual world. Fast forward. The Greeks and Romans were even less subtle. Their art, literature, and daily lives were filled with depictions of sexuality, often in a very open and celebratory way. Pompeii's ruins are filled with erotic frescoes, preserved in time by the volcanic eruption, offering a glimpse into the Romans' uninhibited approach to sexuality, and phallic wind chimes out in the open. These weren't hidden away in secret chambers, they were part of the everyday landscape, For Romans, explicit art brought luck and warded off evil. The phallus in particular was seen as a potent symbol of protection and good fortune. Ancient Egypt, with its elaborate mythology and vibrant art, also embraced sexuality in its own way. India, with its rich tapestry of religious and cultural traditions, has a long history of erotic art, often intertwined with spiritual beliefs. And Japan had their own traditions, developing unique artistic styles to depict intimacy and desire. Think the Kama Sutra, a guide to love and pleasure that remains influential to this day. And Japanese shunga prints, beautiful and explicit woodblock prints that were widely popular. These weren't hidden or shameful. They were openly displayed and enjoyed. They were art, collected by all classes, from the wealthy elite to the common people. For most of history, sex in art was normal, a reflection of human life and desire. Not scandalous. It was simply another aspect of the human experience to be explored and celebrated. Only with the rise of certain religious and social codes, particularly during the Victorian era, did erotic imagery become taboo, shrouded in secrecy and shame. Before pornography was a dirty word, laden with negative connotations, it was just another subject for artists, a source of inspiration and creativity. Our ancestors were just as interested as we are, driven by the same desires and curiosities. They just had better excuses, framing their interest within the context of art, religion, and cultural tradition. The shift to shame and secrecy came much later, a relatively recent development in the long history of human expression. So, the next time you think we invented smut, remember, it's an incredibly old phenomenon. We're just following a very old tradition, one that stretches back to the very beginnings of human civilization. Let's see how technology changed the game and how it has shaped the way we create, consume, and share erotic content. The invention of photography in the 1830s changed everything. Suddenly, anyone with a camera could make explicit images, no artistic skill required. Early nude photos or daguerreotypes were disguised as art studies, but everyone knew the real reason. The Victorian era was publicly prudish but privately obsessed. A black market for erotic photos thrived. These images were sold discreetly, fueling both desire and moral panic. Laws like the UK's Obscene Publications Act and the US Comstock Act tried to stamp it out, but the genie was out of the bottle. Realistic, mass-produced porn was here to stay. Censorship only drove it underground, making it more desirable. The camera made porn a business and a battleground. Before streaming, finding moving porn was an adventure. Enter the stag film, short, silent, black and white, and very underground. Made by amateurs, these films had simple plots and terrible production values. They were shown at secret parties and back rooms, shared among the initiated. Society saw them as criminal and dangerous, which only made them more appealing. For decades, stag films were a forbidden thrill, distributed through whispered networks. The technology barely changed, and access depended on who you knew. It was a cottage industry built on secrecy and demand. No slick productions, just grainy reels and a lot of risk. This was porn at its rawest, long before the digital age. In the US, porn's journey to the mainstream was slow and messy. The Comstock laws kept it underground until the 1950s and 60s, when court cases began to loosen restrictions. The sexual revolution made open discussion of sex and porn possible. The 1970s saw the golden age of porn, with films like Deep Throat playing in mainstream theaters. For a moment, porn was part of the national conversation, reviewed by critics and watched by the curious. Then came home video. The VCR killed the porn theater. Why go out when you could watch at home? Video stores with curtained-off adult sections made porn more accessible than ever. It became a consumer choice, not a secret society. Porn was no longer truly underground, but not quite mainstream either. It settled into the cultural suburbs, always available, never fully accepted. The stage was set for the next revolution. Enter Hugh Hefner and Playboy in 1953. Hefner wrapped nudity in sophistication. Playboy was part lifestyle mag, part intellectual forum, part centerfold. Interviews with cultural icons sat alongside nude photos, making smut seem smart. Playboy made nudity respectable, landing on coffee tables across America. The Playboy mansion embodied the fantasy luxury, parties, and perpetual pleasure. Hefner sold a dream of sophisticated hedonism, but critics saw it as polished objectification. Feminists argued Playboy wasn't liberating, just another form of control. Behind the glamour, life for playmates was often restrictive. Still, Playboy broke taboos and changed how sex was sold in America. It sanitized porn for the masses and made Hefner a cultural icon. The conversation about sex in media would never be the same. The internet changed everything, again. Early online porn was slow, but the potential was obvious, global, anonymous, and unregulated. As speeds increased, streaming video and tube sites like Pornhub exploded, offering endless free content. The old business model collapsed. Why pay when you could watch for free? Studios had to adapt, focusing on niches and subscriptions. Meanwhile, anyone with a webcam could become a porn producer. Amateur content boomed, offering authenticity over slick production. Porn became more accessible, diverse, and integrated into digital life. The industry drove innovations in streaming and payment tech, later adopted by mainstream sites. The internet democratized porn's production and consumption. The backroom and video store were obsolete. Now it was all just a click away. The digital revolution was total. The rise of free tube sites presented a significant challenge to the traditional paid porn industry. These platforms offered readily available content at no cost, seemingly dealing a fatal blow to subscription-based models. It seemed like the end of an era, until subscription platforms like OnlyFans arrived, offering a new paradigm for content monetization. OnlyFans ingeniously allowed creators to place their content behind a paywall, creating an exclusive space for their dedicated fans. This simple yet powerful concept revolutionized the industry. Creators could now directly monetize their work by charging fans directly for access to their content, cutting out the traditional intermediaries. While the platform was designed and is used for many things, spanning various content categories, it quickly became almost synonymous with adult content, carving out a niche that would redefine the landscape of online entertainment. For the first time in the history of the industry, performers could exercise complete control over their work, from creation to distribution. They could set their own prices, determining the value of their content, and keep the lion's share of the revenue generated. No more middlemen dictating terms or siphoning off profits. It was a direct line of communication and transaction, just creators and their fans, fostering a sense of community and exclusivity. This fundamental shift empowered performers in unprecedented ways, giving them agency over their careers. It granted them autonomy and financial control, allowing them to build sustainable businesses around their creative endeavors. They could freely choose what content to make, catering directly to the desires of their audience. They could interact with fans on a personal level, building loyal communities and fostering a sense of belonging. The industry structure began to evolve, moving away from centralized studios with rigid hierarchies, towards a decentralized network of independent entrepreneurs, each managing their own brand and business. Of course, this new landscape is not without its challenges and imperfections. The need for constant content creation and the intense competition within the marketplace can be incredibly tough. But despite these hurdles, the change is monumental, representing a fundamental power shift. Performers are now, in essence, their own bosses, charting their own course and reaping the rewards of their labor. The gig economy, with its promise of flexibility and autonomy, came for porn, disrupting the established order. It brought with it all its inherent freedom and risks, creating a new paradigm for adult content creation and consumption. For the first time, the person in front of the camera has direct control over both their creative output and their financial destiny. So, what have we learned? Pornography isn't a modern corruption. It's as old as humanity, evolving with our technology and morals. The biggest shift? Power. For most of history, men controlled the business. Performers, mostly women, had little say or profit. Today, platforms like OnlyFans let creators call the shots. What to film, when, and how to distribute. They build their own brands and connect directly with audiences. It's not a perfect system. Exploitation and mental health issues remain. But compared to the past, the transfer of power is undeniable. From anonymous models to underpaid actors to modern creator entrepreneurs, the industry has changed radically. Porn's history mirrors our changing tech, morals, and endless fascination with sex. And one thing's certain, invent a new way to communicate and someone will use it for porn. The story isn't over, it's just evolving. Thanks for joining the tour.